Although, oh wait, we got to go live. There we go. This is a voting session, and we're going to start with our voting list number 11 of the session. And we'll start with House Bill 1109, which has been asked to be withdrawn by the sponsor. Would someone make a motion to allow the sponsor to withdraw his bill?
Move to withdraw the bill.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. All those who are opposed, please put your hand up in the panel. It's unanimous. That bill will be withdrawn. House Bill 301, Tyler.
House Bill 301, picking it up again from after yesterday's voting session. The bill as drafted expands the allowed use for an anatomical gift not made to a specific person. The amendments adopted in subcommittee clarify a few points concerning the bill. First, someone registered before the bill's changes go into effect will maintain their registration status as it is, only if they, which is currently registered for transplantation or therapeutic uses if they're registered. They may update their registration if they choose after the regulations go into effect. The MVA will adopt regulations by July 1st, 2022 to carry out the changes coming from the bill if enacted along with these amendments. From July 1st onward, individuals who register to be an organ donor through the MVA will be presented with the option to either not register, donate for therapy and transplantation only, register to donate for education and research only, or for both categories, and I apologize. Donate Life Maryland will develop and provide informational materials, and then after they are provided, then MVA locations will make sure that they are available and displayed for individuals at the location to see and learn more about it, or see that they want to request more information before making a choice.
Delegate Rosenberg, you want to add anything to that?
No, it's, as usual, a very accurate summary.
Good. And you know what? I have no problem with the bill. As the problem person on this bill, I'm finally satisfied that it does what it needs to do. So Delegate Rosenberg, you want to do something?
Yes, please. I will move the amendments.
Second. Discussion on the amendments?
Madam
All
Chairman.
those in, yes.
Well, I guess it's not on the amendment, it's on the bill, so I'm going to wait.
Okay. All those in favor of the amendments, please say aye. Those opposed,
Aye.
please put your hand up. And Delegate Saab, your hand is up, but I assume that you're not really meaning to vote against the amendments, right?
No, this is just because I have a
So
question.
take your hand down because the world might be watching, and I just want it to be clear that you're not voting against the amendments when I say it's unanimous.
How about
Okay.
this? Is that better?
All the time.
Right. If I gotta say, it's nice to see everybody having had a little sleep last night and feeling better today, including me. I'm sorry it went so late. I have to tell you, we shouldn't have to do this, and our staff, thank you to our staff for a long,
Madam Chair, I think you
long
might
day
have
tonight.
meant to say, having had a little sleep, it's glad to see people.
Well, both. How about that? I've had a little sleep, and you also, I presume. Okay.
I can't get rid of that thumbs up.
Passed unanimously. Want to make a motion on the bill, Delegate Rosenberg?
Certainly move the bill as amended.
Second.
Delegate Saab.
I
But
can't take
please
my
take
hand
all your
down. No, I'm
hands
like
down.
clapping, I'm thumbs up. Yeah, I love you all.
Oh, that was good. I like that.
So I guess my question, I'm just trying to understand the bill, which means that you can donate your body for medical experimentation, whatever. So what happens to the body after that?
So this is, just to clarify, it's organs and similar tissues. The technical term in law is anatomical gift, I think, because they're not everything that can be donated is an organ. I don't have all the details on that and some of the science. But my understanding is the body would then be, is usually, depending on the organs taken, actually, you're usually, I guess, reconstituted in the most respectful manner possible, and then given to whoever would have the right to your body. So next of kin in most cases in Maryland. And then they
So
would
if some,
And
to,
if
we're
someone
not
dies in
changing
an
that.
accident,
Yeah,
We
Yeah,
are
that
not
doesn't change.
changing that.
so they
There's
could
no
still
new
choose to
language.
either. Mhm,
so if someone dies in an accident,
mhm.
what happens? Can you walk me through that? Do they get the body and then they take out what they want and then send it back, or they just tell them what they want and send it to them?
So if when an individual passes away, whatever institution, so most likely they'd go to morgue, or if they were in a hospital, they have communications with Donate Life Maryland where they verify whether or not the individual is registered, and if so, their registration status. And then from there, they would deliver the body to whoever the appropriate authority would be to then extract organs for donation. After they do all sorts of assessments, make sure that you are healthy enough and that your organs would be useful for transplantation or therapy, or in this case, my understanding is any organs could be useful for education and research purposes. And then afterwards, when that is completed, what is left of your remains would be returned to your next of kin or whoever has the legal right to decide the final disposition of your body.
Okay, so nothing changes with the way we do now with things with donors that donate, useful, I guess, for lack of a better word, useful parts. This is just more for not just to re-implant it in another body. This is just for, so we're adding the experimentation part to the
research. Yeah.
to the research. Okay,
Yeah, research
thank
or
you.
education.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Delegate Saab. Are there other questions or discussion? I see no hands.
Motion to move the bills amended.
I
Second.
think okay.
We did.
All those in
It's a double move.
favor,
So,
all those in favor say aye. All those
Bipartisan.
opposed,
Aye.
please raise your hand in the panel. I see 0 hands, not even Delegate Saab's doing something weird over there. Nothing. Okay.
You want me
the
to
bill
raise
passed-
my hand?
No,
No.
I'm really good the way you are. That bill passes unanimously. Let me get my list again. States and trusts, House Bill 448, Tyler.
House Bill 448 would make Juneteenth National Freedom Day a state employee and legal holiday. And just to clarify some of that distinction as to what that means, employee holiday, the impact of that is that it's a day when state employees receive paid leave if they were scheduled to work. Most employees who have to work that day for whatever reasons would then earn compensatory leave hours. The legal effect of it being a legal holiday it has a series of things throughout the code that would be triggered. It becomes a non-business day for utilities. It would be up to local jurisdictions to decide whether they want to, acknowledge or celebrate this, codify the holiday themselves, but it does impact prevailing wage laws. So if they have employees or expenses connected to the prevailing wage, there'd be some impact there. And then legal holidays are optional for banks to recognize. So they can either choose to use it as a bank holiday and close, or if they want to stay open, then they can choose to stay open. So that's the impact of a legal holiday.
Delegate Rosenberg.
I would just add that Juneteenth recognizes the final implementation of the end of slavery, the implementation of the Emancipation Proclamation 2.5 years after Lincoln issued it, because Texas was the Lone Star State and there hadn't been Union troops there, but until this point after the war had ended. And that's why this is such a significant occasion and worthy of this designation in the view of the subcommittee and I hope the full committee. So I would move favorable.
Are there any amendments on this bill or is it just the way it was?
I believe it's the way it was.
Good. Okay. I should have noticed that on the list. I'm sorry. I wasn't paying attention to that.
I
I
second
see
it.
hands. I want Delegate Saab to put his heart up now. I want that heart symbol right now. Delegate Saab, are you good? Okay. The hand was not mandatory, but the heart is really good. I
How
need-
about this? Better?
Aw.
I like it. Delegate Lewis Young, you're first. Delegate Saab, you're second. Delegate Shalega, you're third.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. We had a very robust conversation yesterday. In fact, I had my hand up and I must have accidentally erased it. I thought some great points were made. This bill has a fiscal note of close to $2 million. This is the right time to be doing that. I thought a great suggestion came forward, which was to make this a legal holiday as opposed to a state employee holiday. But I also think there's a bigger issue, and that's how do we go about designating state employee holidays? If we are truly dedicated to diversity, then we should bring together a group of people that are examining all of the requests. I might want Yom Kippur to be a holiday or Yom HaShoah to be a holiday. And I think rather than dealing with these requests to eliminate one here and add one here, we should be looking at this holistically to make sure that it reflects our entire population and the needs of contemporary society and all of our residents.
Delegate Rosenberg, would you like to say something at this point in response, or shall we just listen to the people who are speaking first? What,
I think we should listen
put
to
your
everyone.
hand up. What?
I would listen to
Listen to
everyone, prefer to listen to
That's
everyone.
fine.
first. Yeah.
That's fine. Delegate Shalega, you're next. Sorry, Saab is next, and then
I thought
Delegate.
my heart got me a better spot, but I'm a gentleman, so I'm gonna let Delegate Shalega go first.
No, you were first.
No, I insist.
Okay, Delegate Shalega.
Don't forget Delegate Bandari, because he has his hand up. I want to make sure you see it. And I know he had a holiday bill too.
He's there.
Good. All right. The fiscal note has a good summary of what days we have. I want to acknowledge this day. I think it's important. However, as I said yesterday, and I said in subcommittee, today with COVID is not the day when our staff is every day getting unemployment questions for us to give state workers another paid holiday. I can't support that. And I want to support this bill. I think it's important for unity, and Delegate Barron had, mentioned that at the end of our discussion. I think there'd be support for calling it a legal holiday across the board. So, my preference is we find a way that we can all come out of this unified and supporting this day. And that's one way to get to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Shalega. Delegate Bandari.
Thank
wait.
you.
No, hold on. No, I think it's my turn.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, yes, it is.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm really bad at that. I'm sorry.
No more hearts for you today.
Fair.
So I guess I want to read. So right now it's a paid holiday. Change anything.
In the bill as drafted, it would be.
So
I wanted to avoid confusion. It's a commemorative day in law currently.
right, and I think it is important to recognize the day, and I think we all want to vote for this bill. We do, because we recognize the importance of the day and what it is, what it means, what it symbolizes. But I also don't think that, equating recognition with a day off with money is really what this is about. So as much as I want to support this bill for what it means, for what it is, unless if it's removed, that there is no fiscal note, that it is an option if you want to take it, it's just very hard for me to want to support something, because I don't think money should equate recognition. And I'm hoping that, I know it's getting late and I know there's no amendment, but if you would allow me, Madam Chairman, even though yesterday I thought the reason you held the bill that you wanted to put an amendment, that I'd like to put an amendment on the bill, and I don't know what the legal language would be to add this amendment, because I think many of the committee members want to support this. They do. I know that. But we also want to make sure that it's not costing the state anything as far as money. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the retirees, the state retirees looking for money for their prescription plans to be expanded and all that. So I think every dollar counts, and this will add millions of dollars to the state budget that we can actually allocate somewhere else. So I don't know if I could hold it to add an amendment to the bill or not, but the way it stands right now, I can't support this bill.
Okay, I'm going to move on to Banderi. I think I've got it right finally.
Right, so are you saying no to adding an amendment, Madam Chairman?
At this moment, I'm just listening to everyone.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, Delegate Selega, like with my DOSE bill, I'm not asking any state employee holiday. I was just asking just for the recognition of proclamation. Just put the word, that's all. That every community will feel that they belong. You know, that's the sense of belongings. Okay, I would like to correct that on that. And regarding this particular bill, I don't think this is the right time. When we go to our district, you know, voting for something and that will cost a lot of money, it will be very hard to defend for me. And this is not the right thing as well. And this is not right time as well. So, you know, legal holiday, that's fine. But state employee holiday, I have a deeper concern. And to Delegate, one of the delegates' view there, I'm not seeing her on the screen here. I think there should be, when we talk about the parity, no culture is like inferior or superior. It's important. I think we have to look this to Delegate Louis Young's point. If there are a certain population threshold, we need to just recognize the governor will just do the proclamation and they're fine. They're just happy. It doesn't cost us anything. For my DOSE bill, it doesn't cost anything, but there are thousands of people. I mean, my suggestion would be, let's look in a holistic approach and perspective. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Delegate Kerr, followed by Delegate Charles.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, this is not a hard vote for me. I don't think that this fiscal note is a big price to pay to commemorate, memorialize, and respect all the lives that were lost building this state and this country.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Delegate Charles.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Delegate Kerr, for your heartfelt words about the bill. You know, with this bill, you know, it's definitely something that we are all within the African-American community truly supportive of. But in addition to that, there was another bill that was brought up this year about changing Columbus Day to Indigenous People Day. And at no point in time when that bill was being heard did I hear anybody talk about changing that from a legal holiday, from a employee holiday to a legal holiday. At no point in time did I hear that. But here we have a bill where we're talking about commemorating African Americans getting their freedom. The same people who built this state up. This was a slave state. It was a slave state. So I believe that we need to commemorate this Juneteenth and move forward with the bill. If anything, if any other types of amendments will be offered, you know, only thing I can see truly agreeing with is putting forth a flex day where folks can not take Columbus Day, but take Juneteenth, but it still be considered an actual employee holiday for folks in the state of Maryland. And I'll leave with that, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Thank you. Delegate Krebs, then Delegate Kelly. This is a nice touch, keeping your mute on while you're talking.
Sorry, I hit it twice. I don't know how all the other holidays were established, whether they're in state law. I was told they were negotiated, and I don't know. But I think I'm all supportive of making it a holiday, not necessarily a paid holiday. But I think we have the opportunity to give the message. I don't know if we can put it in language to say, we want everybody to look at all of the holidays that are paid. Because everybody, I mean, whether it's Columbus Day or Maryland Day, which comes up next week, if you don't know, either they should be flex days, people pick what they want to do, but I'm all about letting the people decide which of these holidays do we really update the holidays. And if this is what they come up with, my aversion to this whole thing is adding another state holiday. Yesterday, and I know this is political, but yesterday we literally took away the opportunity from low-income students to choose a school that works for them for $9 million because it was too much. And then today we're going to put a new holiday in for state employees who have been working and getting paid and get very good benefits, great health insurance, great sick leave, great everything. And we're going to add another holiday in the middle of a pandemic. So it's not about Juneteenth Day. I'm fine with putting it in there, but if we could add language just to ask everybody to look at all of these holidays and take some of them away and let people choose whether they want to celebrate Maryland Day next week or whether they'd rather choose Veterans Day or whatever. So again, I'm all for just, and we got to make sure it gets through the Senate if you want the recognition that it deserves. I wish this day was not in June. I wish it was in a different month so our schools could actually do stuff on that holiday because June they're out of school. But again, I'm all for putting the holiday in. I just do not think we should add another paid state holiday unless we want to swap something out.
Delegate Kelly.
Thank you. This is a really interesting discussion. Delegate Charles actually said a lot of what I was going to say, but I just want to add, I mean, I am 100% think it is imperative that we make Juneteenth a paid holiday for state employees. And I wonder if the process we need to take for that is a two-step process. I don't think we have the time right now to create a new structure for a floating holiday or something like that, which is used very often in the private sector. I think it's notable that the Columbus Day question is still unanswered. I think morally, I love the idea of raising our children in a state where Juneteenth is a paid state holiday. But I think that if this year we can pass the legal holiday with a commitment from the committee to figure out how to make it a paid holiday next year, then we could come out to the floor with what looks like it might be a consensus vote, which I think sends the message I want to send to the folks who need, which is all of us, I think, the recognition of this holiday as meaningful and important for our history. So that is my thought. It's not a strong, I will vote for this bill either way, whether we put an amendment or not, but I am not opposed to the idea of amending it if we make a commitment to figuring out how to make it paid in the following years, whether through choice options, figuring out the Columbus Day floating holiday, whatever, in a way that wouldn't necessarily have that $2 million fiscal impact.
Okay, Delegate Morgan, followed by Delegate Bagnell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just echo some of the sentiment from Delegate Saab that this would be a pretty easy vote, but we do have a lot of holidays. And I remember when I was about from the age 20 to about 26, I worked construction. And it'd be crazy. Like you'd be driving up Route 5 there going towards DC. And every once in a while, there'd just be no cars on the road. You're like, what's going on? Oh, it's a government holiday. Because when I was working there, we only had 5 holidays all year. But the government employees, they had a whole bunch. And now we're ending another one, a 13th. I mean, I would be fine. I wish we'd exchange it for President's Day. I mean, a day off in June to celebrate this would be much better than a day off in January when it's cold and miserable out. I mean, but I just think at some point we do need to take a look at all the holidays because it's getting to be a little much. I mean, it's 2.5 weeks now. So I just wanted to state that. Thank you.
Delegate Bagnell, then Delegate Kipke.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for this discussion. I think it's really important. I also think this bill is really important, and obviously I leave it to the will of the committee. But There's just a couple things that I wanted to say. One is that the fiscal note, we need to bear in mind that the fiscal note makes a lot of assumptions. The things that was said is that the overtime has to be paid if somebody is scheduled on the day of Juneteenth, if we make it a state employee holiday. So there are some strong assumptions. And the other thing I wanted to say is that this is part of our American history. We've celebrated the 4th of July, our Independence Day, for time immemorial, and yet this is African
Hang on a
American
minute. Delegate.
Independence Day.
Oh, good. She closed it.
This is African American Independence Day. It's a part of the DNA of our country. And in terms of whether or not it should be a state employee holiday, we've heard a lot about the work that our state employees have had to do during COVID. And we basically carried COVID on the backs of our state employees, many of whom are from the African American community. So I think we need to be thoughtful about saying that we can't offer another holiday because our state employees have too much work to do. And I'll just end with pointing out again, I know it's not an apples to apples comparison because we're a very different country than other countries, but the US on average has about a third of the holidays, recognized holidays of other countries, of other industrialized nations. So we're not, we're by no means, exorbitant in the number of holidays that we have. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Delegate Kipke, then Delegate Pena-Melnick.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I did vote for the bill in subcommittee, but I did do it with a little anxiety about adding an additional government holiday, paid holiday, just knowing so many people in the private sector who are suffering. I just felt like the timing of that isn't really good. But I voted for it, obviously, because I think it's really, it wasn't that many years ago. I had never heard of Juneteenth. And when I heard about it, I'm like, how the heck did I never know that? I mean, it's amazing. So I think it's really wonderful that we're making sure people know about this history, which is just incredible. I'm really proud that we are going to make it a holiday, but I think it was Delegate Charles who suggested that we either swap the paid holiday with another one, or if there's a flex option for people, I think that would be nice as well. I don't know how we go about doing that, but I think the most important thing is that we make it a holiday, and then let's figure out how to, I've always thought it was weird that we had off on Columbus Day. I always thought I'm not for getting rid of Columbus Day because I know it's important to Italian Americans. I don't want to disrespect them, but I always thought it was weird that we got off on that. President's Day too, but nevertheless, I think this is really important. I'm hopeful that we can all come together around an idea here. Delegate Ariana Kelly suggested, a real commitment to figuring this state holiday portion of it out. I totally support that. And, maybe on Juneteenth this year, we can have a field trip to, a spot over on the Eastern Shore at the Tubman, museum, I guess. We can have a little reunion on Juneteenth or something like that. That's kind of a good idea I want to throw out there for everybody. But that's all I have to say about it, Madam Chairman. And I appreciate everybody's comments. It's been really good working with you on this bill.
Thanks, Delegate Kipke. Delegate Pena-Melnick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chairman, I support the bill for the following reasons. Juneteenth is our country's second Independence Day. It is also known as Freedom Day, Jubilee Day, Liberation Day, Emancipation Day. On June 19th, 1865, which many people do not know, many Americans don't know this monumental day, Blacks became free. They claimed citizenship. They stopped being a property. And they were recognized as people. That is monumental. And I think it's worth the money. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Peña-Melnick. Delegate Saab.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you for letting me get another bite of the apple. So I think we all recognize the significance of the day, and we are the committee of reaching consensus. I think we're all saying the same thing, but I still have issues with equating money with the significance and the meaning of this, because there's also workers that are African Americans that are not state employees. So how is that fair for those workers that work in the private sector or work at banks or work anything else? Why are we limiting this to state employees? If you want to do it, I would wait for the federal government to make such, to make it a legal holiday. And I think the important thing that we're missing here, that we want to recognize the day for the importance of it. No one is disputing that. And for us to do that, and if we just do it as a state holiday, as a paid holiday, the state employees, we are leaving out what we talk about, the equality. If you want to be equal to people that work in private sector and in small businesses and banks, then we have to be able to give them the option to have the day. And that's not going to be fair, because obviously this is only state holiday. So I still think we still can all agree that this is a good bill. We all want to vote for it, but we want to take the money aspect of it out. And if there's a way of pleasing everyone on this committee by, having a legal holiday and have people want to swap it. I mean, good Easter Monday is not a state holiday. Why not? That's a religious holiday. Should it be? Maybe it should, maybe it shouldn't. So for some people that want to recognize it because it is important to them and to their life and their religious beliefs, then they can. So why, and I think there's enough wiggle room. And from what I hear from the committee, that I think we're all on the same page in one way. We just need to figure out some sort of language that is acceptable to everyone, because I can't wait to vote for this bill. I do. I want to vote for this bill, but I really don't think, we should equate money with the recognition. And also, if we do it that way, we're leaving out the people that are not state employees that also want to celebrate that day.
Thank you, Delegate Saab. Delegate Rosenberg.
This has been an extraordinary year since we were last here, as several of us have noted, in terms of the pandemic. It's also been an extraordinary year, an awakening to both our past and our present in terms of race in this country. And I think we have been leaders during this session in the work that we've done, especially the work of the vice chair, but collectively, everything we do is collective. And I would hope, and I have a sense that we can do that again here to come up with a collective, positive recognition of the day, of the historic significance of Juneteenth. That is also the right thing to do contemporaneously. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Rosenberg. Delegate Cullison, you're next, and then Delegate Barron, and then the speaker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I support this bill as written. I'm very concerned that the issue of paid state holidays is being conflated with a holiday that's specifically around our African American history. It doesn't, it's the timing of the bill. I understand and I understand that the state holiday question is an issue. I appreciate folks who have raised it, but I'm very concerned that that's the lens through which we're looking at this bill. And, I've heard everyone say how important it is to commemorate this part of our history, to recognize it, to begin to enculturate us in it. So I would ask that we not change this bill, that we leave it the same, and that we take Delegate Lewis's suggestion that we look at the big picture of state holidays in another setting without being conflated with this bill itself. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate Sample Hughes.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. At first, I wasn't going to say anything, but this is so significant in the sense that I believe the state of Maryland, we need to set the standard. You know, when we look at our history and nationwide, people see and talk about Harriet Tubman, and is that just in jest? Is it just to say it? But no, the reality of it is that it is our history, and the reality of it is that sacrifices have been made. People have died, and actually, I still want to make you aware that to this day, I still get threats of being hung, with lynched and nooses and things like that. So that's the history. And we need to make it known that these things are still going on. We need to celebrate it, but we need to set the standard with our state employees, making them aware and making everybody aware that we still need to celebrate and respect the culture. And we can do it by implementing this bill and setting the standard for the state of Maryland. So I stand by the bill the way it's written. I have spoke with the speaker about it, and I'm standing firm on this bill for many, many reasons, personally and for the past that we have been a part of. And the district I represent the district that Harriet Tubman walked through the swamps and everywhere to get people freed. I mean, that's real. That's real history. So I just wanted to just make that statement, but I still stand by the bill. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I am going to weigh in first and say, I have come to believe this bill is very, very important, and the way it's crafted is the way it needs to be crafted to send the message that I truly believe we need to send to everyone in our state. This is a very difficult time. I'm not looking at COVID at this moment, although I spend a lot of time looking at that. I'm looking at the way people feel right now, and I'm afraid that it's clear that there are people in this country who feel like second-class citizens. And those people have contributed much to this country. And I think that I too was ignorant about this date and the history of it until some years ago when it came to the General Assembly as an issue. And I think its time has come, and I think that this is the committee to do it. I'm going to hope that my words resonate with you, because I think this is a right thing to do. I don't say that too often. Most of the time, I think there's area for compromise. On this one, I just don't think there is. So I am going to hold the bill today. I'm not going to have a lot of discussion tomorrow when we vote on it in our next voting session. I'm going to ask you to restrain from having a lot of discussion tomorrow, since we've had a full discussion of this bill yesterday and today, and I think it's been a fair and good and respectful and kind discussion. And for that, I really appreciate all of you, every one of you. But I think that I'd like to hold it so that tomorrow, when we come back and we've slept on this and we've thought about what has been done to people in this country to make them feel, well, not feel, to be not human beings, and to have that legacy in your history. I have a different kind of legacy in my history that's also not good. So I have a great deal of concern that this needs to be real. We need to put our money where our mouth is on this bill, to put it very bluntly. So I'm going to say to you, oh, Delegate Barron, I'm sorry I didn't call on you. I'm going to give Delegate Barron the last bite at the apple, because he didn't speak today, and I don't see any other hands up of people who didn't speak today. And I'm going to say we need to move on, because you might want to go home tonight to your families, or you may be staying down, but we've had a lot of long days so far, and I don't want to do it to you again. So Delegate Barron, you get the last bite at the apple, and we're going to come back and vote. We're coming back to a voting session tomorrow anyway, but we're going to vote on this bill at that time, and it's going to be a clean vote. Okay, Delegate Barron.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was really just wanted to say that at this point, this is a very painful conversation for me. And I don't know if anybody else feels the same way, but it's painful at this point, and I would like us to move on. I saw there were other hands, but I would like us to just move on at this point to the rest of the agenda.
Well, that's where we're going, Delegate Barron, and I thank you for that. So this bill is held by me until tomorrow, and I'm going to hope that you sleep on this and see the value the way I have come to see it, and are able to support the bill the way it is, and that you understand that we have had a lot of discussion and can accept that kind of a decision. I know this committee doesn't work that way often, but this is crossover week and we need to keep moving. So with that, we are going to move to House Bill 565.
So this bill was held last night. There was discussion about the amendments that were adopted in the Health Insurance Subcommittee. There is the bill, I believe the bill was held around discussion that the bill prohibits a hospital from making a claim against the estate of a deceased patient to collect a debt owed. And there is an amendment that is being offered by Delegate Kipke that I can explain, or if Delegate Kipke would like to explain however he wants to move forward.
Please go ahead, Erin. Thank you.
Okay. So like I mentioned, the bill prohibits a hospital from making a claim against the estate of a deceased patient to collect a debt owed. And this amendment would clarify that the prohibition only applies if the deceased patient was known by the hospital to be eligible for free care, or if the value of the estate after tax obligations are fulfilled is less than half the debt owed. It also provides that a hospital may offer the ability for the family of the deceased patient to apply for financial assistance.
Delegate Cullison, would you like to explain the genesis of this amendment?
I would. Thank you, Madam Chair. And first of all, I want to thank Delegate Kipke for giving me the heads up, letting me know about this amendment, giving me some time to think about it. It's a difficult one for me because, as you all know, my primary mission on this committee and in so much of the work I do, I want to assure that everyone has access to healthcare and without undue financial burden. You've heard me say things like that over the last 10 years if you've been here. But one of the things that's happened over the last 10 years is I've become really super aware of all of the interconnectedness of the financial entities around hospitals. And not entities, but how the finances work around healthcare with respect to insurance and hospitals and providers, and the kind of flow that one so deeply depends on the other. We need to keep good hospitals. We absolutely need to. We won't have good healthcare if we don't have good hospitals, and we need hospitals that are going to be able to keep up with current times, current medicine. So our hospitals need to get paid for the services they provide. We have to balance that, knowing that healthcare is very expensive, and the services are very expensive. The insurance is very expensive. The influx or the implementation of high deductible plans, which they are based, folks, in the ACA. So if we want to do something about high deductible plans, then we have to rethink how we operate under the ACA. But they're expensive, and so we don't want to leave out people who can't afford, we don't want to put undue hardship on those who are economically vulnerable. But I never intended, when I started working on this bill, to allow people who can pay for their services not to pay. And when I learned, and fortunately Erin did some research for me around how Medicaid handles this, and the fact that Medicaid actually will put a claim on an estate under certain conditions, because we're recovering state money, right? When we are recovering Medicaid money, we're recovering state money. The language that I brought to you in this bill last night leaves a door open for people not to pay, basically, people who can pay. And I think that what Delegate Kipke's amendment does is it closes that door who can pay. He was generous enough to add the amendment that says if the family is in a financial hardship, they can work with the hospital to develop a payment plan with the same guidelines that the patient would have used had they survived. So with that, I would just like to say thank you, Delegate Kipke. It's hard, but I think that we're addressing an issue that's important with this amendment, and I support the amendment.
Okay. I was distracted for a few minutes or seconds or something, and I want to make sure, did you discuss, maybe Delegate Kipke would like to address this when you speak. I'll let you speak next. The parallels between this and Medicaid, I don't recall hearing that was brought up, but maybe I missed it.
Well, I just said that within the context, Medicaid sets out circumstances under which they can collect, and that's what made me think I needed to rethink this.
Thank you. Delegate Kipke, then I see a hand on Delegate Hill, although I don't see it in my panel, which is because I'm goofy here. Okay, got it.
I just wanted to say, you know, I, of course, being the fiscal conservative that I am, would like to go a little bit more aggressive on this to recapture more of the estate and more circumstances. But I'm certainly sympathetic to the, individuals in poverty and individuals in tough situations. The Medicaid policy does take all that into account.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, in the spirit of, you know, working together here to advance a bill that will ultimately pass, that has meaningful protections for people and at the same time is done in a balanced way. You know, I'm supportive of this and support the effort, and I appreciate the work that everybody's put into it. This has not been easy. It's been very hard. There's a lot of outside, you know, people pulling at us in totally different directions. And appreciate the work that you've put into this, Delegate Collison and to the whole committee. Thank you.
Delegate Hill, then Delegate Bagnall, then Delegate Kelly.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to thank the subcommittee chair and Delegate Kipke. I supported your concerns last night, Delegate Kipke, and I think this is a good amendment. I would like to know where the 50% came from. You know, I'm curious about that number. Does it match with Medicaid? Why are we talking about, as long as it's not more than 40% of the estate or 60%, where are we coming with the 50% of the estate, please?
May I respond, Madam Chair?
Yes, please.
I started with 100%, and then thought, again, there might be ability to capture some of it, so we went down to 50. And it was just a negotiation, basically.
Did you have anything to add, Delegate Kipke?
No, that's right.
Okay. Delegate Kelly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry, I didn't know I was next. So I also want to thank Delegate Kipke and Delegate Collison for working on this amendment. This is an issue that actually concerned me as well. I'm very happy with the compromise language. I think it provides a little bit, significantly more protection for the most vulnerable folks than the original idea that we were talking about. So I just want to note that and again, thank them for working on this, because I think it does you know, close a little loophole that certainly was concerning to me. And I don't think it harms the overall intent of the bill. I think it supports it because for the big picture goals of making sure we have enough money in the system to the best of our ability. Thank you.
Thank you. I see no other hands up. So Delegate Collison, had you moved the amendment?
I have not, so I'll move. Well, Delegate Kipke is moving the amendment. I'll second.
Oh, sorry. Yes, Delegate Kipke.
I can barely move the amendment from all the bruises Delegate Collison has left upon. move into submission
You
on
weren't
this
supposed
issue.
to tell anyone that.
But I moved the bill.
And I second.
Yeah.
Oh, you moved the amendment, right?
Amendment.
Okay.
Let's go with that first. And I heard the second. All those in favor say aye. Delegate Kelly, is your hand up for a reason? Good. Thank you. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. Please raise your hand in the panel, and I'll try to be looking at the top of the panel. The amendment passes unanimously. Delegate Cullison.
I move the amendments that were brought to you last night because I don't think we passed we didn't say, I moved the amendments, the bill from last evening.
Second.
Thank you for reminding me of that. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Those amendments pass.
I move the bill as amended.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. These are all unanimous votes. And I want to thank the subcommittee and the committee for all their input. I think that because of that, it turned out to be as strong and fair a bill as it could possibly be, but especially the chair of the subcommittee, because I know the hours that you've put into this. Thank you.
And Madam Chair, if I might, I want to thank especially the subcommittee. You guys, and you may not know it, but you spent around 7 hours in meetings on this on this bill with some really terrific discussion. You were listening and to a lot of different perspectives, and I so appreciate your time. And there's absolutely no way I can thank Erin Hopwood for the work that she put in on this. It was amazing, and I will miss our 7:30 a.m. calls, Erin. So I know that she's out walking her dogs while I'm out walking mine. But thank you all very, very much for your work on this bill, which I think is a very, very important bill for lots of Marylanders.
Okay, I'd say the bill passed unanimously as amended. So we're going to move on to House Bill 601. Lisa.
So as amended, House Bill 601 repeals the exclusion for ERISA plans from the definition of purchaser, which allows for a broader interpretation of PBMs that provide PBM services on behalf of purchasers to apply to the majority of the provisions in Title 15, Subtitle 16 of the insurance article. And this is including most of the provisions having to do with registration, form filing, MAC and GRE pricing, some other provisions that give MIA some enforcement authority. The bill also, as amended, defines carrier identically to how purchaser is defined in current law. And so that includes this ERISA exemption. And the bill specifies that it specifies that PBMs that provide PBM services on behalf of carriers, it specifies that certain provisions of Title 15, Subtitle 15 do not apply to those PBMs. The bill requires MIA to conduct a study on the scope of a Supreme Court decision that came down in December on pharmacy benefit managers and how states can regulate pharmacy benefit managers and ERISA plans. And the amendments specify the applicability of the act and change the enactment date.
Yeah.
And the lights went out.
And the lights went out. There we go.
Good job, Delegate Cullison.
I wasn't running away. So the benefit of the folks who are not in the subcommittee, the shortened version of that is that you hear frequently how we only regulate about 20% of the insurance market, which includes about 20% of the PBM activity in the state. MIA does not regulate something called an ERISA plan, which is a federal plan and basically an employer-based plan. And that could be any kind of employer. And it can be self-funded plans like local government plans and the state plan. What decision of the Supreme Court in December of 2020 did was open the door to have some regulation around the PBM activity with respect to that other 80%. So basically it opens the pool for PBM activity that that we can regulate and that the state can regulate and make some options that we currently have for our 20% available in that 80%. The tricky part is that there are various opinions on the scope of the decision. And the decision very clearly recognizes that there's the ability to regulate around reimbursement rates of PBMs and some reimbursement strategies like that famous clawback, which I think is GER or GRE, one of those two. And so what we did to try to prevent ourselves from going to court is kept the bill very narrow around the remuneration parts of our law. And it was a tough conversation with the folks, the PBM folks. But we think we have a product that could potentially be the model for the country in terms of how you might implement this and in other states. And I do believe that this is an area that we're going to see a lot of activity in the other states over the next 12 months, and that's what the MIA will be studying. So with that, I would move the amendments.
Is there discussion on the amendment? Oh, second first. Is there someone? Second. Thank you, Delegate Kipke. Is there any discussion on the amendments? Delegate Hill, you have your hand up. You're muted, and I don't know if you really were asking a question. If you want to ask a question, you need to unmute, and if you don't.
I'm sorry, I was trying to find the amendments, but it doesn't matter, I guess.
You were trying to what?
Find the amendments. They're not in anything. I can't find them. It's okay, it doesn't matter.
Okay, I'm sorry you can't find them. I believe they were circulated. So moved and seconded. All those in favor of the amendment say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments pass. Delegate Cullison?
I'll move the bill as amended.
Second.
Any further discussion on this bill? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Bill passes unanimously. Again, all the things that I said a minute ago, except I left out staff, for which I apologize. So to both staff who worked so hard on this bill, I want to say thank you on this bill and the other bill, because
Right. Well, this was Lisa.
yeah,
Lisa,
I know.
Lisa
I
might close
realize
her a
that.
little bit later.
That's, yeah, but these are big lifts, both of them, and it's really nice to see them come out and to be voted unanimously out of the committee. Delegate Kipke.
I just wanted to thank Lisa also. She's awesome. All of our people are, but you got a great team, Chairman. But Lisa, thank you very much. I know we couldn't have gotten there without you, and it means a lot to me. Thank you.
Okay, we're now on House Bill 72. Aaron.
House Bill 872 establishes the Sheila E. Hickson Behavioral Health Services Matching Grant Program for service members and veterans in the Department of Health. The purpose of the program is to provide funds to local nonprofit organizations to establish and expand community behavioral health programs to serve service members, veterans, and their families. Beginning in fiscal 2022, the governor may include in the annual appropriation of, in the annual budget, an appropriation of $2.5 million for the program. And this was in Public Health and Minority Health Disparities this morning.
Delegate
Penuelic.
Bill. We don't even have to discuss. That's wonderful. I moved. It was unanimous. The key word here is may.
All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill passes unanimously. House Bill 920. Tyler.
House Bill 920 alters the definition of administrative function in the Open Meetings Act. As amended in subcommittee, the definition now excludes any personnel matter regarding the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of an appointee, employee, or official over whom the public body has direct jurisdiction. Therefore, such matters would not fall under the Open Meeting Act's administrative function exclusion. The meetings did not have to happen in public, but the fact that they've occurred would be public information would have to be reported, and the body would have to conduct closed session proceedings before conducting the personnel matter that they're meeting to discuss or address. The vote was 8-3 in subcommittee on the bill, but the vote on the amendment was unanimous.
Thank you. Delegate Rosenberg?
I think this
You
is a
need to-
I did. Thank you.
Okay.
Sure. This is a recognition by the subcommittee that personnel matters should be kept private. Striking to me that it hadn't been done before, but that would be the consequence of what we're doing here. And we have also laid out which aspects of personnel decisions would be covered. So would move the amendment.
Okay.
Second.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion on the amendment?
Yes, there is.
I see Delegate Shalega's hand and Delegate Krebs's hand.
Mr. Chairman, just to be clear, these things are always private, right? This just moves them to a different category. Employee meetings were never available to PIA. I think you need to explain it to the people that weren't on the subcommittee, so that I think you didn't mean to say it that way.
You're correct. Could you, Tyler, could you do that for purposes for right now?
Sure. So currently these are administrative functions are excluded from the Open Meetings Act. So I know from your experience in committee, certain requirements about announcing ahead of time, releasing agendas, and just the fact that they occurred. Currently, if it is a personnel matter, that they do not have to happen. But this bill would change it so that the contents of the meeting would still be private, since public information, at least as far as I can tell, Public Information Act would protect most of what was going on as private, sensitive information, personally identifiable, and so forth. But the fact that the meetings were happening would still be public, and certain provisions about the Open Meetings Act would apply to them.
Did that answer your question? Delegate Shalega, did that answer your question?
I didn't have a question. I just didn't think that he had explained it properly, and I wanted the committee to understand what the bill does.
I wanted to understand too. Thank you, Delegate Shalega.
Thank you.
Delegate Krebs.
Yes, with these changes, did you run it by the Open Meetings Board, and do they now support? Because they had two issues, two big issues, and it sounds like maybe you fixed one of them. So what's the position on the bill now with the amendment?
So my understanding is they're still in opposition, but I think since Delegate Carr, it's his bill and amendment, and had the most conversations with them directly. Madam Chair, if you agree, I think he would be best suited to answer Delegate Krebs's question.
Delegate Carr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, so the Open Meetings Compliance Board opposed the bill in their testimony, the bill as introduced, and their arguments against the bill were twofold. First, they said that the bill would create extra work for public bodies and for the Open Meetings Compliance Board. And I think that was addressed in the amendment. The amendment narrowed the bill to only apply to those employees that report directly to a public body, like a town manager for a municipality, or an executive director for a housing agency. So it's a very limited number of employees, and there are no public bodies that oppose the bill, like MML and MACO. They don't oppose it, so the bodies don't think it'll create more work. That was what the compliance board said about the bill as introduced. So that was, I think, addressed by the amendment. I think their other contention was that any changes to the Open Meetings Act need to be done carefully studied. And I think that this is an issue. It's a narrow tweak. This is a known issue. If you read the Attorney General's Open Meetings Act manual, this is a known issue in the Open Meetings Act where most public bodies do it the right way. They follow the Open Meetings Act and they let the public know that they're meeting for the purpose of, reviewing someone's performance or disciplining an employee, whatever, but some don't. So it's a known issue that they acknowledge, and they acknowledge this in their testimony. And they're charged with making recommendations to the General Assembly. They haven't done that. So I don't agree with their position that this is something that needs to be done more slowly, or this is anyway, that's my response.
Delegate Carr, we don't have an answer then from the compliance board. Is that accurate?
So yeah, they've seen the amendment. They still oppose the bill with the amendment.
Oh, they do still oppose the bill with the amendment.
Correct.
Did MACO or MML weigh in at all, one way or another?
They did not weigh in on the bill.
Let me just tell you my perspective. I mean, we're a commissioner form of government. So our guys have a fine line, and I'm not saying there doesn't need to be some tweaks. However, when you're trying to run a county and you're the legislative branch and the administrative branch, what the Open Meetings Board said is that significant changes to the law should be enacted only after careful study of the amendments and the impact and the purposes, and they've not done that kind of study. Any hasty amendments to significant legislation, the chairman didn't even really know what the bill did, and now this is going to affect our county largely. And I'm not on the subcommittee, but it'd be nice to have MML and MACO weigh in positively. It'd be nice to have the board that oversees this weigh in a positive way. And I'm not on the subcommittee, but it's a huge difference in my county on how we operate. So I don't think it should be done unless we thoroughly understand the impact on all the counties and all the boards that serve under us. And I don't know that seems to be the case, that it's fully understood the impact of this. So I'm going to have to vote against it just because the oversight board doesn't support it and we haven't really weighed in with them.
Well, I would just respond, if I may.
Let me call on Delegate Riley because her hand is up. I don't think there was a question asked. I think that it was a statement. Delegate Riley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, Delegate Krebs kind of went on, but first of all, on the amendment. So these items that are mentioned in the amendment, are those being added to this bill, correct?
It's substituting what was in the bill as drafted. So the bill as drafted was much broader, and so it's specifying
So
that
they
these
limited it some.
Yeah.
Okay. So when they have any kind of discussion, of any of these particular problems or issues with employments or appointments or whatever, are they doing this in a closed session at the time? And then what you normally do when you're talking about any kind of discipline, and then it's done in a closed session currently?
Yes, that would be they would convene and vote to make it a closed session and then conduct the personnel matter.
Okay, and then just general notes have to be written about that meeting, correct? And then given out, but it's not any details. So is this bill giving details of what happened in that executive meeting?
I don't think so. I think that might be a gray area of how much detail is detail versus how much is general notes. My understanding, there aren't specifics that they'd have to include beyond time, date, location. I think that's the extent they'd be required. I don't know. So I know that the notes on the matter or on the vote to close have to be kept for at least a year as a matter of public record. But beyond saying that they were discussing a personnel matter. I think
Okay, so-
have to disclose more detail than that.
Okay, so then what is this bill actually trying to do? Because that's current, what you just mentioned, which I agree with.
May I, may I interrupt this? Because I would like to go
Sure.
at this a different way, not because I
Okay.
have an outcome in mind, but because I want to do it differently. I was on the county
Okay.
council for 8 years. We would close our meetings to discuss personnel issues. What we had to do in my county, Howard County, was we had to post that we were closing our meeting to discuss personnel issues. And then we would privately discuss whatever the personnel issue. We didn't put a name there. We didn't put whether it was what kind of an issue it was, just that it was a personnel issue. And then we closed the meeting and did what we needed to do.
Mhm.
And then when it was done, there was some kind of a note that was very general, roughly equivalent to the posting of the meeting. So that people knew we did something that had to do with personnel. So my question is, how does my experience, can you walk me through an example of how this would work? I think that's going to help us understand it better.
Actually, going from the example, I want to double check that I got this example from the right source. Right, so it's this is from the letter of opposition from the compliance board themselves. It would require a town council to give public notice and begin an open meeting, followed by a vote to close, and then have a formal closed session to conduct a job interview or speak with an employee about a minor disciplinary matter such as lateness. So that's.
Excuse me, I forgot the vote part. There was the vote part, yes.
You do have to, majority of the members have to be present and then vote to
Right.
have the closed session.
So does it sound like they're saying we don't want to go through these extra steps for minor issues?
I would.
Is that a summary of what that's
A
just
significant
said?
part of their first point on it, yes.
Okay. All right, now I'm going to go back to Delegate Riley, who I interrupted, and thank you for indulging me because it makes me, sometimes, Mike Bush used to do examples of how something worked. It's a way to think through things.
Right, and that is correct. I agree with, and that's exactly how Open Meetings Act is currently. So that's why I had the question, okay, Tyler mentioned that, I mentioned that, then you mentioned it. So now what's the difference? What is this bill trying to accomplish? We know all that. We've heard it 3 or 4 times now. We all agree with the current law. But what is this bill trying to do? And I think you just mentioned, Chairman, that I guess they're trying to eliminate some of those steps for minor. Is that what you said?
It would be the reverse. It would actually so my understanding is that in the Maryland Open Meetings Act that they would not have to go through that process of convening a meeting, formally closing it, then discussing the personnel matter and having a record so that there isn't, and that was in some of the support testimony that there doesn't have to be any record. So as far as the public would know that the meeting may have never occurred.
Okay.
Whereas this would require that notice that it did occur.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Delegate Chisholm, followed by Delegate Carr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mine will be quick. When did we hear this in subcommittee and how was it voted out? Because I have no notes on this bill.
It was the 17th, and my vote, I wrote down 8-3. I believe you were one of the votes against it.
Thank you. I'll go back.
I'd have to double check and recall.
Delegate Carr.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So, just to help clarify, so what you described in your county council experience, that is the way that most public bodies do it, and that is the best practice. But there's another way to do it. You can, as a public body, discuss personnel matters under the administrative function, which means it's not covered by the Open Meetings Act. So you could do your personnel matters in a way that you don't have to tell the public that a meeting happened, when it happened, whether it happened. And this is pulling public bodies into the best practice, like Howard County does, and like most public bodies do, to just follow the act when you're doing these personnel matters.
Thank you. Delegate Kipke gets the last bite at the apple.
Chairman, I was just curious, one thing that struck me. Did you post these types of things on the council for interviewing employees? I could see why you might want to.
You mean for interviewing for a job who weren't employees?
Yeah.
If they weren't employees, I don't think we had to post it. I don't have a memory of that. I have to admit my memory, this is a long time ago. Memory is, that it had to be an employee for you to have to post it is my memory. Maybe Tyler would know the answer to that. This applies to employees, correct? Not possible.
So it definitely would apply to a current employee who reports to the board, but that's actually where I feel like there's a gray area where I wouldn't say for sure, and it could be even, there are a few times where the compliance board themselves said the Open Meetings Act is vague at times, and that's where you're not. I would say you're not employee. If I were to apply for Howard County Council for a job for them, and I would report to them, I'm not yet an employee for them.
Right.
So I would say no, I wouldn't apply yet. But if I were an employee for them and applying for a different position or a promotion, definitely this would apply. So for that interview, but I'd say it's a gray area, leaning no, that it would apply to all interviews.
Okay, I think that I'm going to hold this bill. We'll get, though I said that was the last bite at the apple, I'm going to let Delegate Saab have a bite at the apple if he wishes to, because I see your hand is up.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing. I think this bill right now falls under the category of not ready for prime time. And maybe because there's some gray areas that we need to look at and figure out. So thank you.
Yeah, if we can get answers to some of those questions by tomorrow without overworking my staff, because we've already done that for the last week and we've got to keep moving on the things that are there. This is the first time I think we've heard this bill. Is that accurate, Delegate Carr? I think that this is new territory to us and it may take us a little longer. The merits seem right to me, but at the same time, we may need to fine tune it to get it so that people are comfortable. It'd be nice if everybody were on board. So let's just hold this bill and see where we get, if anybody gets definitive answers by tomorrow. And if they don't, we can send something over after crossover if you want, if that's what the body would like to do. But I think it's time to go home and have dinner. I know some of you have started your dinner. Good for you. I think we've done a lot of work tonight and a lot of work this week. And I want to say to Tyler, for the new kid on the block, you've done a bang up job. We're so grateful to have you in the committee. It's just remarkable the amount of work that you've accomplished. And I know that not having the staff in the offices next door to you did not help you. I know they've been to help you when you call on them, but it's not like just walking around your door to the next door. It's been a very hard year. So thank you very much. So all of our staff, and you know what, as long as I'm doing this, let me say Melissa, who's a rock star, who learned everything she needed to, and is really running things for Jen in the office, and Jen and Delegate Penny Melnick's staff, who pitches in to help the committee from time to time as we need them. They never say no. I'm very grateful. And we have another bill.
One more bill. Yes, we're
Yeah, we'll do
secondary.
that. But I'll throw in Kathy, our receptionist, who's fabulous too, just because I am. She won't hear it. Okay, House Bill 1091, Tyler.
House Bill 1091 makes a number of emergency procurement reforms, mostly on transparency and oversight by the legislature. So there's a series of them. They were all inspired by the OPEGA report. That's the Office of Program Evaluation, Government Accountability, back in early February. We had a briefing from them on their emergency procurement evaluation report, where they put forth model legislation. And this bill mostly adopts that through amendments in the original drafting, adopts their recommendations, but then also represents some compromises with DGS, who only on a couple points, the DGS have very strong opposition. And that's where, as I understand it, most of the compromise was met. So I'll try and go through the biggest, really all of the provisions in it, so that so it starts by revising the definition of emergency for purposes of procurement. And then it brings in all emergency procurements made have to be reported within 15 days. Emergency procurements worth over $1 million have to be reviewed and approved by BPW before they can go into effect. There's the default rule for emergency procurements is that they have to be approved by the state's chief procurement officer before they can be enacted. If the chief procurement officer does not respond to that request for approval within 48 hours, then it is assumed approved and can go forward. But there is an exception, and this was the first of the compromises that DGS and Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services brought up, that they couldn't, in the chance that the chief procurement officer was unable to be reached over a 48-hour period, that there would be times where that would be too long. So there is an exception for when there is imminent harm is likely, then the procuring agency can act without approval beforehand. And then they would, after the fact, report it to BPW and the General Assembly as the provisions require. And there is a tracking tracking requirement for data on MBE participation on emergency procurement. So there's no requirements affecting or setting other goals or preferences or anything like that for emergency procurement. It's just asking the Department of General Services to track MBE participation so that can be reported and studied for potential consideration. And I believe that summarizes the extent of the provisions of the bill, but I'd be happy to take any questions. Again, this comes from appropriations where it was voted favorably.
And we are secondary.
Right.
Delegate Rosenberg.
The bill, well, first, there was a public hearing at our instigation, our initiative, because of the issues that arose with emergency procurement during the pandemic. This entity within the Office of Legislative Audits, we requested that they do a review. The bill as amended reflects both that review and the kind of compromise that appropriations did with the various agencies that we do so well and so often. So I would move favorable on, well, we only have the bill before us. We don't have the amendments. So I would move favorable on the bill. It is consistent with the study that was done at our request with legitimate compromises.
I second it. Thank you. Delegate Staub, followed by Delegate Krebs.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So I guess this bill was inspired by the Korean tests, correct?
In part, yes.
In part, okay. And also, with the amendments that the appropriation made, does the fiscal note change? Because the old fiscal note, or the fiscal note that's up now, it's $500,000 a year and it goes up the next few years. Does the fiscal note stay the same, or has it been?
Well, it won't be officially revised. I would just somewhat cynically that since the departments opposed the bill as introduced or had problems with the bill as introduced, their estimates may have been on the high side. But we have addressed, the amendments address their concerns. So I think it's reasonable to assume that the fiscal note would be less when it's revised for the Senate.
Is it fair to say that we need to weigh that against how much money we may be wasting in poor procurement? That maybe the fiscal note would be more than balanced by not spending money unwisely with no checks?
Absolutely.
Delegate Krebs, then Delegate Shalega.
I sat in on the committee, in the Appropriations Committee, and listened to the bill. And the bill's been substantially changed. And I wasn't involved with that process in appropriations, but I had a next to the Joint Evaluation Committee report on emergency procurement, and they made recommendations for the legislation. And they wanted emergency to be clarified. And Sandy, or Subcommittee Chair, did they you're the procurement expert, you're the procurement committee. Did they change the definition of emergency to make sure it was clear? Because that would seem to be what I brought out of the hearing, is that needed to be fixed.
That was at the heart of the bill. Tyler, you have it specifically.
Yeah, it's there in the top of the bill, at least in the reprint. It probably wouldn't have been in the amendment because it was touched.
And I'm not, I mean, I think we all agree that
13-108.
the procurement process needs to not be bypassed like it was. I think we all agree on that. But I had down that the appropriations committee was 16-4. Does anybody know what the objections were and were they fixed?
So the 16-4 was with the amendments. So I would say, I guess, on those 4 that was not fixed or not sufficiently addressed. DGS, many of their concerns were DGS actually was happy with the clarification for emergency, that they said that it was a needed clarity. I think there's some nuance of that they wish had certain, I think it's they just wanted to reiterate that it's when normal procurement methods. So I'm
not sure why the bill went to them to begin with, since we're the procurement committee, but, and the fiscal note of 500,000, hopefully DLS is the nonpartisan, they're gonna give you a true number. They're not gonna bow to what the administration says on it. So I heard the bill. I thought it was good in theory. I had some notes on it, but I wasn't there to see all the amendments and how they came about. So, and I wasn't on the subcommittee. I'm not sure why I got sent there when I'm not on the subcommittee, but that's okay, because I really didn't get to look at it. But in general, I'm supportive of what they're trying to do. I just don't know why folks were not supportive of it.
Delegate Shalega, Delegate Hill, then Delegate Chisholm.
I just want to make sure that you're all aware of the reprint that Tyler gave us, the original bill that had all that opposition testimony. It looks like they really did a lot of work on the bill and fixed, I'm assuming, most of what those disagreements were. And, some of the technical things, it looks like they even, had the wrong committee on part of the original drafting of the bill. So I think as it looks now, I would support it. I didn't support it initially because we didn't see this reprint, but this reprint looks pretty good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Delegate Hill, then Delegate Chisholm.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So I just wanted to say, like Delegate Cribbs, I was there for the hearing, and I just want people to understand that this was really necessary changes. We think of, emergency procurement because we need something right away, and some of the stuff is taking, since our emergency went on, people were using emergency procurement to order things that might take 3 months to come in. It just didn't make sense, and it just became a way of bypassing the kind of scrutiny that we all think is important to make sure money is well spent, and to not have the kind of oversight that was necessary. So I think this really strikes the right balance of making sure that the procurement process that many people in this committee and certainly Delegate Resnick spent a great deal of time getting to be as tight as it needed to be in the last 4 or 5 years is actually utilized, and that we're not throwing money away simply because, people don't have to check with anybody else. So I think the amendments and thing make it a better bill, but this is definitely something that was needed. Thank you.
Delegate Chisholm.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll be fast.
Led the charge.
I think that we had a bill that go through in the last couple of years that was check the box. I would just like this one to be added to open the box and put it on the bill.
You led the charge on this.
Yeah.
Chisholm.
Delegate Resnick and I will never, ever get along about many things, but this we were together on.
Delegate Morgan, last bite at the apple.
My first bite. I didn't ask a question. Thank you, Madam Chair.
That's why I like you so much.
I'm trying to get along. Hey, what was the vote in appropriations?
16-4 was what we were just told, right?
16-4. Move favorable.
I wrote that down, but I'm not sure.
Second.
I can pull it up.
Okay. I hear a move and a second, and all those in favor say aye. All those opposed, raise your hand. Anybody opposed? Delegate Kelly? No, okay.
I was, the sponsor, Delegate Resnick, just wanted me to make sure the Republicans on the committee know that a Republican seconded the motion over an appropriations.
So it wasn't a party vote, is
No,
what
not at
you're
all.
telling us.
Well,
Okay.
well, let him know the
I-
Republican on this committee seconded.
Morgan
also.
seconded.
Okay, it's unanimous, the bill passes. Let me say to Delegate Krebs, you asked the wrong question. The question isn't why this bill didn't come to us. The question is, why does procurement come to us?
I'm glad I'm not on that committee. It's over my head.
I've been asking that question for a few years now.
That's why we have Charles there, Delegate Charles. He's the expert.
Yes, he is.
I listen to whatever he says because he knows what he's doing.
Don't say that, they're gonna move him to
I do
appropriation.
like to understand what I'm voting on though, and I really don't have my arms around that. So,
Well, I'm glad you went to the hearing and paid
no,
attention.
and I had a favorable on the hearing. I just didn't know what all happened.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank
That's what
you.
happens when you're secondary sometimes, unfortunately.
It is. So thank you for bringing back and for reading the reprint. I appreciate that. That might be why I sent you. Thank you all again. You've been great. Keep it up. We only have 2 more horrible days and then life gets better. Hold on to that thought. I'll see